Plaid integration is not easy. The road from onboarding to releasing your application may be quite bumpy. This episode will help you avoid these bumps because we've already experienced them, so you don't have to. Hi, my name is Ronan Eisen, and this is Unihive channel where we discuss e-commerce, fintech, and payments. Plaid has a suite of products, which Plaid puts into categories such as payments, fraud and compliance, personal finance insights, credit underwriting, and open finance. Probably the most commonly used are payments and personal finance insights. Payments category, as the name suggests, includes the product that are related to initiating payments, transfers, and verifying them. Auth allows to acquire and verify account information such as account and routing numbers. Identity provides account holders information. Balance allows checking the current account balance. With transfer, you can initiate ACH, RTP, or FedNow transaction. And finally, Signal is for ACH risk assessment and scoring. Personal finance insights category is comprised of transaction. It's the product that gives access up to 24 months of personal transactions. Investment gives insight to a person's investment types of accounts. And liability shows activity on liability accounts such as student loan, car loans, or mortgage accounts. The first most common source of confusion that I witness is the KYC process. Many errors are the result of incomplete steps in setting up your account. Things will work perfectly well in the sandbox environment, but they will, for some reason, fail in production. It is very likely that your onboarding process is incomplete and a few items require your attention. And here I want to pause and point out that, in my opinion, Plaid could do much better job requiring those steps to be completed before users can deploy their applications. First, you must apply to access for products you intend to use in your application. To do that, you need to go to Plaid's dashboard and navigate to the products section. The link to it I will post down below. Make sure you check every product you use when you create a link session. If you're not aware of the products you're using, ask your developer for the list. I advise that you only apply for the products you use. This will simplify the approval process and will help you avoid overpaying for the products you're not using. Plaid is moving toward implementing OAuth flow for connected banks. The topic of OAuth is outside of the scope of this video. Some OAuth-enabled banks require additional KYC steps, which can be verified in Plaid's dashboard. For that, you need to navigate to US OAuth institutions within the compliance section. Once again, the link can be found down below. Once on the page, make sure that all items indicate approved, enabled, or complete next to them. In dealing with Plaid's payments product, I encounter many misconceptions among my clients about how the data between banks, Plaid, and their application flows. The first step in Plaid's flow begins when your user wants to connect their bank account to your app. For that, app uses Plaid's client-side component called Link. Link will handle credential validations, multi-factor authentication, and error handling for each institution Plaid supports. Once Link session succeeds, Plaid stores these bank authorizations as an item. And this is where we enter the black box of Plaid's inner workings. You see, Plaid works with thousands of banks. In US alone, Plaid has integrations with over 12,000 banks at the time of the recording of this video. The banks don't really have a uniform stack of technology, nor some kind of universal API. Data format, protocols, platforms, all these elements that make up banks' technology stack may vary from bank to bank. That means that Plaid potentially may have more than 12,000 separate integrations. Let's review how transaction data flows. From the moment card was swiped at the cash register, to the moment when your application receives notification from Plaid about a new transaction, the data related to that particular transaction will undergo several transformations. First, the transaction information is collected at the credit or debit card issuing bank. At this step, the transaction data is communicated via card networks such as Visa or MasterCard. The bank stores this transaction information in discretionary format. In the next step, the bank somehow needs to inform Plaid about the new transaction and pass the transaction data to Plaid. It does so by sending a new batch of transaction data or maybe calling webhook provided by Plaid so that Plaid can call bank's endpoint, API endpoint to pull new transaction data. And finally, in the third step, Plaid will process the data. It will transform it according to its own format. Once that step is complete, only then Plaid informs your application about the new transaction available for pulling via webhook endpoint, which you've provided while setting up the item using Plaid's link component. So between the time of the transaction origination and the time your app is notified about it can pass quite some time, and there are quite few steps in between. Therefore, many things may go wrong. For example, there could be downtime in communication between a bank and a Plaid. Thankfully, you can keep track of these connection statuses. Plaid provides monitoring portal. I'll post the link down below once again to check these connection statuses. So whenever you face the problem of accounts not showing up or transactions not being updated, this is the first place I would check for outages. The next item is more relevant to the developers who implement Plaid. You may notice that unfortunately, Plaid does not have a feature-complete dashboard. Some of the actions can only be done using their API endpoints. One of those actions is removing an item and stopping webhook calls on them. During development, you will most likely create tons of test elements. When you create a new element using link endpoint, you will be granted an access token, which you should store for future access. I advise that you hold on to these tokens as you need them if you want to remove an item in the future. Plaid could do developers a favor and separate logs for different environments. But unfortunately, they put all logs for all three environments, sandbox development and production, into one place. If you create an item in sandbox environment, you will keep receiving webhook updates for them, and they will create clutter in the logs. And when you decide to remove them, unfortunately, you will not be able to do because you've cleared those items from your database while developing your app. In addition, unfortunately, customer support will not be able to help you. Their answer will be, all items will enter items login required state after 30 days, and they will no longer be active. So bottom line, keep the access tokens unless you know for sure that they're no longer in Plaid. And that is all for this short Plaid's review episode. I will post more of these videos as we discover new Plaid's quirks. So make sure to subscribe and like so that you don't miss the future videos.